today to have Melissa Kunde on with us today, and of course, our fearless leader Mark de Grasse is here as well. Melissa is launching a new venture. She's been a certified partner for several years now. Would love to kind of hear about how you've had success in the program, what you've been doing, and of course what you're getting ready to launch. She comes with a wealth of knowledge and background, especially in the radio industry. She was there
Ooh.
before she came here, so now she's working on digital stuff. But yeah, I will go ahead and hand the controls over here to Mark, and let's get started with agency stock. Yeah, a lot of people. Y'all know her from the community, so Jay's shouting her out. If you don't know Melissa, you're gonna meet her today, and hopefully y'all can find some time to chat here in the future. But I will let Mark and Melissa chat for this morning.
All right. Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for being on, Melissa. I'm very excited to talk to you
Yeah.
about your new venture. Let's just launch into it. What is it?
Oh, launch. Well, it's actually not new. I've been doing the agency thing. Well, actually, I joined Digital Marketer Certified Partner in 2017. So a while back,
Wow.
they pulled me in. It was my very first TNC, and Ryan got up there and said, "We got this program. It's kind of."
Oh no.
Then I went into thinking, I'm like, I'm in, I'm doing it. And so coming from the radio industry at that point, to be quite candid, I didn't know what being an agency, like, what am I doing? Where am I going? How do I want to take all my radio expertise and then launch it into the digital space? And the thing that got radio, I know marketing, I know copy, I know TV, I know all these things, but I need a system. And so I was looking at Harvard, I was looking at Stanford. I was just going to go in and get my master's degree in digital marketing, because it seemed like at that point everything was siloed, and I was like, how can I launch something epic if everything is siloed? I need to know the system. Certified partner. And so I've been sort of just, I think there was this research study that came out that said there's two types of geniuses, and I'm not claiming a genius, but one that comes out at 20 or something and just kills it. And then one waits till later in life when they know all the systems and understand how it works, and then goes, oh yeah. So that's what I've sort of been doing. And I have a couple of great new partners, and we're the Cobblers No Shoes. We're launching a brand new website. We're primarily focused on creative, brand creative, but then we have all the digital marketer and direct marketing and radio know-how behind it. But we're both really creative. Xavier Estrada is my partner, and we just took on a new product, Shannon Hansen, and that's what's so exciting. We're taking this massive, creative bent, launching this new website, and taking people from a big party at TNC on the 28th and inviting all the digital. I'll give you guys a link, and we're going to unveil the new website. And I know, who cares about a website, but we spent a lot of research. We looked across the globe, and we're like, you know what, we're going to put something out. We're going to make something epic. So it's not your standard website, although we did use the high converting, the 7 points of high converting. Yeah. We even though we did this epic design, we kept all of the, the core components and kept that in mind. So I think that's the one thing that's so exciting, is you can take these templates and ideas and structures, and with a creative mind, you can make things great. And so that's the big thing. We're going from behind the scenes to we're launching a new website and coming out.
I love that.
Well,
I love that. It's funny because everybody's like, who cares about a new website? But I think website does for businesses what like magazines, or actually why I had magazines, where it's just like a set piece. You got to tell everybody about it. You got to show everybody about it. And it creates it's a container for all that content that's going to go into your new offering. So I love that. And I also love your previous experience, radio and TV and all that kind of stuff. All of that because I've been doing a ton of podcasts lately, like 5 a week. And all the conversations are always pointing back to like, okay, now that we have the iOS changes and the privacy law changes and all these changes that kind of killed what was working for the last bunch of years, you have to go back to those classic marketing forums where it mattered, the creative mattered, the copy for every single piece mattered, and pulling that all together into multi-channel marketing is starting to be a thing again. Are you actually still doing radio marketing, or is that part of your new offering?
Yeah, we still do it. Really what it comes down to is that we deal with a lot of clients who obviously want to be in the digital space, but for the few brave that want to jump, you have to be a little bit braver to jump into radio, because what people do is they get addicted to, the conversion or whatever metric they're looking at, and they can put a certain amount of money in and go, oh, look at that happened. And radio is one of those things where you go into a market and you have to you pound the market for probably 3 months, to be candid, and then all of a sudden it blows up,
Starts going,
and it starts going, and the really before, you couldn't really track radio. I mean, you could if you got a different telephone number and that type of thing, but you couldn't really track it. But now, with creating a landing page and knowing what radio stations, you can really do a really fabulous job of tracking radio. So occasionally we do it when we get a brave soul that really wants to go in there and connect emotionally with the marketplace. Oh, wow, we can kill it. It's so exciting when we get the brave ones.
I love that. Well, do you see is there any changes in, say, radio ads? Because I think what's funny is last week when we had Casey and I think it was Isaac not Isaac, and his business partner from Gravity Digital, we talked about TV ads. And so it's funny that the next week we're now talking about radio ads. Is there a difference between how you did radio ads, say, in the past before digital was so prominent? Or are you combining the two and saying like, okay, here's the landing page associated with a specific radio ad and so on and so forth?
Well, I mean, radio is always going to be the same. I think the biggest change is that when we were doing it, it was they just started going to 15-second ads, but it was 60 seconds and then 30 seconds and 15 seconds. And now they won't even, it's really hard to get a 60-second ad in there because people don't have they don't have the patience. That's a long ad. But you know what? Radio is a medium of storytelling, and it's just like a long form. Will listen to a full minute, but you've got the copy matters. The copy matters, and the alliteration and how the sound is and what the message is. But yeah, I mean, 30 seconds to 15 seconds, and then drive to a landing page, or
Good to go.
And
so
I mean, go ahead. I have a little delay, so that's what's going on here.
I hate to do it, but you might have to turn it. Is everybody having a delay on it? Because I don't. Sometimes I'm like, is it just me? Oh, Melissa, you might have to turn off your video. That might be a better way to do it. I hate to do it, but just to get the connection. What I was going to ask was, do you see parallels between the radio ads and podcast ads?
I mean, there's definitely, absolutely a parallel. I think the only difference is that a podcast ad is going towards they say is going through an interest group, and a radio ad is going to a local area. The really cool thing about the radio, if you want to go into their area, let's just talk about street, and you look over to somebody and they're jamming out, and you realize you're on the same station and you kind of look over to that person, you're like, yeah, we're on the same song. And what that does is it creates an emotional connection with the people around you. And so when you have a local roofer, or you have a local like nonprofit, or whatever local store, when they're in that mind, they feel like they're in a community, and in their community. It's a mental community that they connect with. And then as you go national, people still have that experience, because how you hear something with the brain is different than when you see. And you know how that goes when you're watching a scary movie and you turn off the volume, it's not nearly scary. But if you turn off the picture and you still have the sound connected to it, it's still nerve-wracking, it's still emotional. So radio has, or any kind of sound marketing, if you will, has the ability to move people through story on a very visceral, emotional level. And that's one reason I really like it. That's why podcasts to me are really amazing, if you can connect with people. And when they're driving in the car or anything like that, you don't have to be watching it. So I still believe in radio. I know a lot of people think that it's broadcast, but you have to have patience for it. It's a long term, but it's been responsible for building some of the biggest brands in the country. So people that are brave enough to walk that path, I say go for it bravely and kick some butt.
I love that. Well, and I think the difference between the, say geolocated radio ad versus your podcast is, awareness, which would be a bigger area and maybe an untargeted group, versus engagement, which you have with podcasts, because you know who's listening, or you know who the target market is probably going to listen. But I think there's a real, opportunity right now for awareness, because I think as marketers, we've got very into, and this is something you have to do, of course, is the customer avatar, making sure you got that target audience, that you're really hitting that target audience with specific information. But I still think there's a big demand for just general awareness of a brand, where it's like, wow, look at ClickUp. ClickUp's the best example right now, because you see ads in airports constantly. And I think the baseball game that we were watching the other night was like, ClickUp was there. And it's like, how do you ROI a baseball audience to ClickUp, which is very specifically a business, management tool, and has a very limited market, relatively speaking. But I think it's just what you said. If you have that awareness and you kind of push it for 3-6 months, you are going to see that result and go from there.
Well, it's also this sort of interesting thing where people forget that in any one market, you have top of mind awareness. And I think this came out, well, I was just at Perry Belcher's event this weekend, and I think it was Chasm that said that that Google said that now it's 500 touch points that somebody does make it to a buying decision. So it's insane. But there's also that buying cycle when somebody's in the market or they're not in the market. And the thing that radio does is it keeps you top of mind. And top of mind awareness is something that people kind of forget, I think, in the digital space, but in the broadcast space, they're always thinking, how can I be top of mind? How can I the same area all the time? You're going to be the one that people are going to remember. And then when they need it, they're, instead of searching through Google on a search page, they're going to type in the URL specifically. And if you can get URL recall, rather than just who's the best plumber, you're ahead of the game. That's pretty exciting.
That's awesome. So when you present that concept of kind of long-term awareness and having that constant touch point versus the sprints that we always teach people, the 90-day campaigns, do you present it as kind of two, sides of the same coin, or how do you get people to understand what that is or why you should do it?
Well, obviously a 90-day campaign is getting out there, getting your message right. And I guess goal is aware branding is a goal, conversion is another goal. So what the 90-day sprint can do is you can go out there and get the conversions and connect and get your email lists and start that down that path. And then depending on the demographic and what you're trying to do in a local or national radio campaign, is then you can start getting the emotive brand awareness, and eventually that will turn into emails and collections, and now you're getting a top of mind, you're building brand. And if you can get both of those going at the same time, then especially in recession oriented times, those people that remain in top of mind awareness during recession times, I think there is several research that profits surge. It's crazy. So yeah, that would be the ideal thing. And the other thing that's really interesting about radio is that the cost per conversion, if you're willing to stick it in, is really inexpensive. Because at any one time you could be listening to 25,000 people and are listening to more, or even 5,000. It's actually, radio is really inexpensive, but you have to pay for a lot of it up front. But per customer, it ends up being an incredible cost-effective deal.
That's awesome. So do you present that, sorry, just going back to the actually selling it to a client, do you say like, hey, you look at the long-term objective and say, okay, brand awareness is a component of this, so I think you should do radio, which is going to be a slow churn, long ROI, but we're also going to do the digital side, which will give you the instant ROI that will keep you employed, I think is how I'm trying to, because radio is hard.
Right. Yeah. I mean, usually what happens is if once a company's gone in and they feel like they've tapped out, or maybe they're frustrated with Facebook or whatever, but they've developed a pretty large audience already on digital, and they really want to go out beyond, they really want to expand beyond, then they'll start talking about broadcast or radio. And as I said, it's brave souls. Can a local plumber or a local car dealer or still do incredibly well on radio? Absolutely. And can that radio ad make their digital presence? Absolutely. Is it going to turn around in 90 days? I mean, you're going to see in 30 days, is it going to like blow up? Your phone going to blow up? No. And 30 days or 90 days? Yes. 6 months? Yes. A year? Yes. I mean, sometimes there's story in every single market across the country for, roughly 40 years. It's the story about the guy who bought overnight radio in a very specific time where maybe they're paying 75. I mean, the prices are different now, but 75 or remnant spots, and then went to in more prime time, then dominated the radio, then their revenue started pouring in, and then they went to another radio station, and before you know it, they were the biggest dealership. Every single market has that story, bar none, 30 years, still to this day, all the time.
That's awesome. Melissa, we're only catching like every third word. Would you mind turning off your video, maybe increase the speed?
Oh, sure. Okay, sure.
Okay.
Is this better?
Try this next.
Can you hear me?
I think well, what's funny is when you respond, it's like, oh yeah, she's right there, and they'll be like, you're making this awesome point, and then it just cuts out for a second, and then you finish the point. It's like, no. So we'll try to do it.
That's
I'll try to do it this way.
I'm sorry, guys.
Okay, so just to get the whole point of radio kind of integrated into what we got so far, let's apply it to, say, a common business. So I think you said plumber. So in terms of, you're talking to Joe the plumber in Tucson, and you say, hey, we're going to do your digital plan. It's going to be 90 days and we're going to get all these results and ROI based on the ads we're doing. But I also recommend you do radio, and it's going to be a year plan. Like, I'm just trying to visualize, like, how do you present the cost of it? How do you, present the integration with the digital side of it? Like, do you have a system around it?
Yeah, I mean, we just, it's just like anything else in digital. Like what's the service you want to offer? What's the one? It's one thing. Just like in anything else, you don't want to like a restaurant or you want to sell one thing. So you're either going to sell an idea or a concept, or you're going to do a straight offer. But most importantly, what you want to do is you want to switch back and forth. You want to be on top of the mind awareness. You want to give them a value to grab onto. We're the best at this. We promise this. This is what we do every day. That emotive offer first, or promise or guarantee. And then you'll throw in, if you do this, I don't recommend people do discount or things like that. I mean, because what you want to do is you want to build value and market value in that area. And so and the cool thing about radio ads is that you can switch them up so easily. It's not expensive to make a good radio ad. So you launch with that idea. You create a landing page. They come to landing page. You should have a telephone number on it. It should have, a place to chat with them. Whatever it takes, it makes it easiest for the client to connect with you. Do it. Then you can track it. And you can start out with radio, $2,000 a month. It's just like anything else. The more money you want, the more money you throw at anything, the more ears you're going to get, or more eyeballs. But you can start with pretty $2,000 a month. And if you have a good digital process and system behind you, and you're doing Google ads, and you're doing even if you're doing Facebook, and then you do radio, there you've got an omni-channel situation. You've got retargeting. That's another thing. You can do retargeting. They come land on your landing page. You've got that going on. So the biggest hurdle is patience for clients. That's the biggest hurdle.
So
and the design.
So go
ahead.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, so because now, so that are committed to brand awareness and dominating in that marketplace. That's what they want.
Gotcha. Okay, so if we go back to our Joe the Plumber in Tucson example, you would say, hey, we're going to do your Facebook ads. We're going to put together an offer. Let's just say if Joe the Plumber is not going to say I could snake your toilet for $20 in an ad, what would be the value adder that isn't or is adding value versus giving a discount to a common service?
I think it's what they stand. I think one of the things is, what do you stand for in the marketplace? We guarantee that we'll show up on time every single time to fix your toilet. And if we don't, then we'll do this. So it's making guarantees, it's making promises, and it really comes down to that business owner and who they are and who they want to how they want to show up in the marketplace. And that goes back to just simple understanding branding and positioning. What's everybody else doing in the marketplace, and how can we position ourselves so that we're offering something that connects us to our customer in a better, solid, in a way that can be remembered. And that's a great radio to do that. And then there's things like alliteration, or how you do the ad, that keeps people remembering. It's not just words. You've got to tap into how people listen to things, and the story you're telling, and maybe a pause, and then starting it over again. There is art to it. Wizard of Ads. I'm an alumni of Wizard of Ads in Austin, Texas. is literally the best at radio in the country.
Oh yeah, actually they're right down the street from me. I have all local agencies
Yep.
went to the Wizard. So just because we're all agency professionals here, we totally understand the concept of story and the value of offer. I'm just trying to get into your method for a specific case study. So if you said, okay, so if we have Joe the plumber in Tucson, he has 5 trucks, been in business for 30 years. He really values customer service, and since he's so old, he has done radio ads, but wants to get into digital. How would you frame his offer and what he should do? Just pretend you can make up whatever components of that case study you want.
Well, that's a loaded question. My process is to go in and I ask them, I do a deep dive and I do probably about 50 questions. I know that most of the people I work with they can't sit for 3 hours. So I sit down with them and ask them their backstory, to ask them what they're doing now, what their offers are, where they're stuck, how long they've been in the area, what they love, how are they future casting themselves, where are they going in the future, and who do they want to be. I think future casting is what a lot of my clients tend to really thrive on, because we ask them where they are, but we also go, who do you want to be and how do you want to be that? And then we start crafting ads for the future right now, and looking at the landing page and looking at the offers from that direct. So to answer your question, the formula is understanding the client so well that I could be on their team, because I know every aspect of what they're trying to achieve and where they've been and where they want to go and where they live and what drives them and where the weaknesses are. And I know that sounds crazy, but the more expert I am at their business, the easier it is to, move on a dime at that point to help them get on radio or TV or do a landing page or a Google ad. So it's really a deep dive. And what makes that so interesting is that they're like, nobody's ever listened to me that way before.
Okay. So in terms of your specific offer and how you run your agency, you go hyper custom. So it's not, hey, we have this formula. I've worked with 5 different plumbers, and here's what we recommend based on what has worked within this market. You say, I'm going to get into the emotional side of the business, the emotional objectives, the financial objectives, what the actual company is right now and where they want to go. And then you create the offer out of that and decide if you need so many landing pages, so many Facebook ads, so many radio ads. And then you present them with a custom solution.
Yep. I mean, don't get me wrong, we use from our experience what works, but we don't do a plug and play. It's a difference between having kind of a custom, a home that has all the things that somebody wants, even though you have a blueprint that's really can be built in a lot of different things. We take that blueprint and we add their personality into it, and we don't do a cookie cutter approach. And what we have found, though, in that deep dive is they're more invested in it because they have their signature on it, rather than being kind of going, oh, well, this works for everybody else, just slap this on there. We find that they stay longer because it's a co-created plan, rather than, hey, I'm just going to do it all for you, and let's hit this and run.
So in terms of
we get buy-in because
you're doing long term. So I imagine just because this is so custom and nothing's off the shelf and it's very emotional in terms of the relationship between you and the client and being part of their team, you offer super high end then? Because I'm just trying to imagine the business model, because what you're talking about sounds super time intensive, which means the ROI, you'd have to have them for years as clients. Is that?
Yeah, and most of our clients we do have for years, and I think that's the difference of the coming out is that, I mean, our entry point is brand creative, which is really weird coming from a digital marketer certified partner, but we come in and we do the deep dive, and which is really helpful though. Like at this event that I was at this weekend, one of the top YouTube agencies in the country said, we do all these things for creative before we even start doing a YouTube ad or whatever. And we do that for the company and the brand. And so it's kind of like slow to fast. We do a deep dive, we understand what's going on. And then if we're going to do an omni-channel campaign, we can operate pretty fast because now we know the company so well. So yeah, at first it's slow, but then it becomes incredibly effective and fast, because anything we're going to do, whether it be TikTok or YouTube or radio or television, we can look at that omni-channel approach and respond with swiftness, because we're not reinventing anything. What the offers are, what the differentiation is. So I think that's in the long term, it's an advantage. And, from the beginning though, it's a lot of heavy lifting.
Gotcha. And so when they, because we always talk about quick wins just so you could stay employed by a client, do you kind of prep them that this is going to be a very long, involved process, and it's going to be worth it because the ROI is going to be so much more over so much time? Or how do you, because I'm guessing that a common objection would be like, okay, well, this is a lot of money and it's going to take a long time. Like, how do you get them to stay?
I'm glad that you asked that question. So when people come into us, they don't like their brand. They don't know who they are. They don't know how to articulate how they're different. So initially, our quick win isn't necessarily, the conversion. Our quick win is, wow. I mean, literally, you heard me. And then we deliver a website, or we deliver a long form sales letter, and they literally, or what we call our marketing, our business plan, which is, or brand plan, which is a little different. And they start, and I'm not even exaggerating, I know this sounds crazy, but they start crying in joy. Like when somebody feels heard and and I know that sounds like, why would anybody cry? Or we get, male business owners who are like, you don't even understand. I'm smiling so big right now that I can't even believe it. I've worked with so many other agencies and they didn't hear me or listen to me. They just told me. And this is exactly what I want. And so our first win is reflecting back to them, not only what their vision was, but 10 or what they thought they wanted to be. And that's the win. And then there's like, oh, will you build our systems for us? Oh, will you build this? Oh, will you do our email campaign? Oh, how do we do our Facebook? And all of a sudden it just, we become a partner long-term, because now they know that we know their business as well as they do. And so eventually it turns into ROI for them. I mean, I know this isn't digital marketing oriented, but we do product and package design. Listen to them, do that. One client, it was in the new package went out on the shelves, and in 1 month it had a 25% lift because we knew the marketplace and we knew them. So that's with no advertising. That's just changing it and putting it in the shelf. So if we can do that in a store, that's what we do in radio, and that's what we do with the new website, and that's what we do for the entire customer experience, and then build it out, bit by bit, which I know isn't conventional, but it's working for us.
No, it's actually, that's so cool. Well, I love the concept of the brand plan too. So I'm guessing you're doing the rebranding, and then you probably do the kind of core copy that they're going to use to explain their offers and come up with offers in the first place. And then you actually help them develop the product. Is that all part of the brand plan, or this is all different components?
So Yeah, we do a brand plan, but what we do is a little bit differently. I used to do the whole thing like the why. I don't even say why anymore, where we crapped why. It doesn't
Oh,
work. The why, the mission, the purpose, all that kind of stuff, and did a great big presentation. And I did that a few times, and every time I got in the office with the clients, it was just this awkward, slow, lack of animated process. And then we finally got it, and then it would go in the desk and nobody would ever hear it again. So now our approach is this: I ask them questions. I do that future casting. Who do you want to become? What's the next move? How do you want to do this? So I use how, who, and what questions. And then I build a pillar. Then I do a probably between a 2,600 to 3,000 word pillar post story, business story, that has their values in it, that has their mission in it, that has their backstory, that has their offer, that has their inspiration, that has their aha. And we post that and then build their content from their core aha story. And then every time a new employee comes in, every time everything comes in, it always, that story is evergreen and moving, and we can change it. And the client or the owner loves it because it's their struggle and their success in something I'm using as content, and they can always go back to it. And so we, just like, we can take memes from it and everything else. So we started change the we turned it into, we made it an active story rather than just a,
yeah, just
okay,
another
what's our
doc. Yeah.
mission statement?
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I hate that. Well, in business school, that's all they talked about was the mission statement and the core principles. And every business needs those things, but in terms of presenting it to somebody, especially somebody who's presented to you from outside their organization, that's hard. So I can see how the brand story that you're talking about would, kind of penetrate that aversion to taking advice and get to the emotional side of it. So that's awesome. I think so. Do you start every project with the kind of brand story?
Uh, it is something if they want to buy that part, but at the end of it, when we're building a new website, and that's usually our entry level, we end up, I think Frank Cowell did his version of the 7-point conversion. And I really resonated with that because in our experience, even sophisticated companies, when we're asking core questions about their business, they can't answer it. So it really becomes, the question becomes a strategy session. Who is your ideal client? What's the one thing you want people to know? And then we build this strategy, and the clarity to the client is, we charge quite a bit for websites because because it ends up being a strategy session every single time. Because we write all the copy. We don't just build a website. We'll write all the copy and all the design work. So I've just learned over and over again that if I want this to go fast and get done with a sense of excellence, we just do the whole thing. I don't sell a website without us writing the copy and doing the design. So yes, if we do the full pillar story, that's a part of a content, and that would be a more a larger part of that would be a part of a package that would be different. But yes, we do it quite often. They always say yes because when they finally get it, they're like, oh my God, this is making my life so much easier.
Oh yeah. Well, and I think that actually harks back to the episode we did last week with Isaac, where Isaac was saying how they include the website just because it simplifies everything else in the process, which I think is a great advice. So you don't have to share this if you don't want to, but if somebody wanted the do-all package with the brand story, complete website build, and then running those campaigns, like what kind of cost would that look like?
Well, for the brand story and the full website, it really depends on how big the website is. But we start at like 30,000, up to 50,000, because it's a lot of heavy
Yeah, ton of
lifting,
work.
and it's a lot of work, and it can go higher than that. But I don't run into businesses who even blink an eye when they're ready for it, because it makes their life so much easier, and they don't
Yeah,
want to keep on doing it. And there's a
half-assing
lot
it.
of half-assedness,
Mhm.
and when we do it, we do it strategy that they want to move into the future. So it's a lot, in a way, it's more cost effective than to do it right. Now, of course, if it's a
Oh,
small business, that, those start of small business, like those start around 15,000. But if they're larger, where we won't even start it, because I don't want to deal with anybody who doesn't recognize how much work it is.
yeah. Well, and anybody
Bespoke
who
work
has to reach for
is
it.
big work,
Yeah.
right?
No, now that totally
Uh,
fits
uh,
your model too, because I think the amount of involvement you're talking about in terms of talking to the business owner and their staff is pretty intensive. How many conversations do you think you have to have just to get that side of it done? Say the website and the brand story.
6 conversations, an hour each.
Oh, 6. Oh, that's not too bad. So you must
Mhm.
have that dialed in then in terms of how
Yeah,
you.
it's not too bad. Oh yeah, I have it down. I have it down to a science, and the reason I don't do I know that in other people said, oh well, you should go in and have a workshop with them and work one-to-one. What I have found is that if I have certain questions and I book it on an hour each time, the my client doesn't get overwhelmed. They get excited and animated, and then they look forward to the next. And in a way, it becomes this therapeutic process for them. I mean, it's like, okay,
Uh,
I'm a marketer, but I also end up being a business coach to a certain degree, because we jump through mindset situations just from the Q&A, and that's where the relationship gets built.
oh, I love that. Well, it
So
sounds
yeah,
more like the
six convers
business therapist. There you go. That could be your.
right. Honestly, that's what it ends up happening, because they they end up hearing themselves talk through the questions, and then I mirror them and said, is this what you're saying? And then they realize some places where they're stuck, or how much more opportunity is for them to kick butt in their market where they were holding
Mm.
themselves back. And I don't mean to do that. It just naturally happens as a part of the interview process. But I find it's
Oh,
very
that's so cool.
effective in keeping clients, connected with you for a long time.
I love it. I've actually been watching that show Billions. I think it's on Amazon Prime, and Wendy is like the corporate therapist, and she does exactly what you're talking about, where it's like, no, here's who you are, go kick some butt, and then it works. So no, that's awesome. I love everything about it.
Yes. I mean, as marketers, what we're in psychology and sociology. That's what we are. I mean, the other side of it is we have to understand the technology and the AI and the processes and the best in class practices. And so if we walk that path, and then we walk the path of understanding human beings, we just take over the world, because that's what people want. They want to be understood. And then they want to go, okay, now that I'm understood, how do I become understood in the marketplace using the channels that are available to me? And that's where our expertise comes into play. Because let's face it, there are so many gurus out there that are saying, oh, you need to be on this. Our them and help them walk into their superpower and their genius and their passion, and get out there in the world and share the value that they bring, in the most simple path possible. And then it's like the half built bridges thing. Here, we're just going to build this one path, and then this path, and this path, and this path. and when I break it down into that simplicity, whether it's radio, TV, a new website, you know, an Instagram play, a TikTok play, and they are now new, they have a new sense of confidence and new, what I call brandable chunks, which are things that they keep on repeating. It makes it easy for them, easier rather than overwhelm.
Love it. Well, it sounds like you have a super, you know, neat model, premium, and that you could, you know, kind of get through the noise of just like providing somebody with the methodology for marketing. You're providing the whole shebang. And on top of that, you're giving them, you know, clarity, and then also probably relief. Because I imagine, you know, business owners, especially ones that, you know, where $30,000 isn't a lot of money for a website, are already successful, and they're probably kind of stuck in this plateau of like, yeah, it's working, but I can't get it bigger, and you know, all the issues that we talk about with scalable. So that's super cool. And it, you know, I don't want to take up any more of my questions. Does anybody else have some questions? Post in the chat or feel free to speak up. Yeah, overall, I love that. Business therapist. I think, yeah, we should keep going with questions. And the aha story, that was good. Yeah. All right, I'll keep going because we still have a little bit of time.
Now, what
No, go
one of
ahead.
the things that we are doing is that we do that, the new website will be for that bespoke side, but I am creating this other platform called Muse Hub that will have templated websites and you know, systems already built out, because that's one thing that takes, so it'll have the webinar, a whole webinar, you know, snapshot with the emails or the quiz funnel or anything like that. And so we're building another platform for smaller businesses where everything, even email campaigns, it's all pre-written, and we can have, we'll have like custom values in it, but using what we know, what works, with having a design, you know, creative bent to it. That, you know, boring, or you know, or it's for the business owner that really cares about brand. So we're building that out for that type of company, because we can't do heavy lifting for everybody, but some people want a little bit more than what's out in the marketplace, and that's what we're going to do for that. But I think it was the big research firm McKinsey and something other came out with the big three, and they said that companies that are dominating every single marketplace focus on creativity, purpose, and analytics. And that it was called the growth triple play. And that's what we focus on, is helping companies accelerate their growth triple play. And in the research that they, creativity, you're going to, if you can actually do all three at the same time in every single category, the companies that work with those three things literally beat everybody else out. And that's what our sweet spot is, I think, is getting into the creativity, the purpose, and then the analytics tied to that.
I love that. Well, and from a client standpoint, like those are all tangible, visible things that they could you know, review and latch onto, or criticize. That happens too.
Right. Yeah, but I think sometimes people underestimate the power of creativity. I mean, especially with new AI that's coming on. I think there's a difference between people like, oh yeah, I can write copy. Let me just, you know, plug into Jasper and here's your, you know, here's your thing. And for all the agencies that are doing strip mall marketing, it will work for a while. But some clients are going to want to, you know, they're going to want to have their own voice and their own authenticity in there as well. And I love AI, don't get me wrong, But the question is, how do you marry creativity and purpose along with technology so that it can catapult you forward and make you unique rather than making you blend in?
Mhm. Love it. Well, I'm always pushing the creative side of things too, where I'm like, 99% of everything is pretty visual these days. People, one, they don't read as much as they used to. And even when you say like a picture is worth 1,000 words, only 1,000 words, and I think that's why what you see now is
Right.
the rapid consumption of information. It has to be video because it's the only way to communicate enough through both what you say and what's on the screen, but also all the emotions that come along with the visual aspects of each creative.
Well, yeah, that's what the event that I was at this weekend, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, quick shorts. I think they said you have to change the angle every 2 seconds or something like that.
Oh,
Yeah, obviously visual is big, and if you can make a massive first impression on a website or a video and have it all tied together, that's where the world's going to. Although I'm still 100%. I think you can do it. I think you can, if your audio is done right, I think you can use audio massively in a really effective way on all those mediums without having to go heavy on video, as long as your audio is good. Does that make sense? I think you could basically
oh
do a
yeah.
really good radio ad with a couple of core videos and not have to deal with all the video editing. And it could
I
be
love that.
incredibly effective.
Well, and even for your point for the short form, we actually have been doing the YouTube shorts for a digital marketer, and one of the recent ones with Alex Schlinsky has 4 times the views of our last like 30 videos with 4 times as many likes and engagement too. And I think it's 15 seconds, and it's just a clip from the last Certified Partner Training Day. So I'd say yes, we're seeing that too.
Yeah. I'm gonna throw it out there. I feel like if somebody can go back to old school radio and figure out and listen to old clips, imagine a few key visuals that would support kind of like a TED Talk, if you will, right? They say don't have a whole bunch of a great TED Talk doesn't have a whole bunch of screens. It's like, what's can you do one picture that supports the emotive aspect of what you're saying, and you can really hit it home? Well, if it works for a TED Talk, it's gonna work in other places. So I would do a deep dive in. I mean, and there's some radio ads have gotten lazy, but if you go back in history and listen to some of them, you guys, they're epic. They're epic and they're exciting, and you want to listen to them more. And if you bring that type of storytelling and experience and audio diversity into social and into whatever, I'm predicting it's going to do super well.
I love that tip, because I just thinking back to fake back in time for Mad Men, like some of the concepts they came up with Mad Men pitches, I'm like, man, that is a killer hook. Like that would do great, and I could make tons of content off of even the concept from that one hook. And that's all they had to do. Well, not all they had to do. That was somebody's full-time job, a bunch of guys' full-time job. But no, I think that's a great idea. Just go back, listen to old ads and see it. Even jingles. I still hear jingles and I'm like, man, that's so cheesy, but I cannot get it out of my head. And now I'm gonna go to Joe the plumber in Tucson because he had a good jingle. Well, thank you so much, Melissa. I think this has been
oh gosh, I'm so sorry we have this delay, but you know what, this has been a blast. And I just want to say digital marketer is, for me, if I had another 15 minutes, I would tell you how integral it's been to my inspiration as a creative person and understanding digital marketing and how to apply that in a bigger bolder way with structure it's just been huge for me moving forward. And all the relationships, I think the relationships in digital marketer and the people I've met, it really comes down to excellence comes with collaboration. And that is what makes this group so awesome.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Melissa. We're very proud to have you as part of the community and can't wait to start promoting your new big launch. And you said that's coming out next week? I missed the date.
It's coming out at TNC on the 28th. And you know what?
TNC,
I'm having a big, I'll send you guys there's an invite to come. I only have space for 75 people, but it will be awesome for you guys to celebrate this, because we spent a good 6 months making this website totally different, and would love to have the support. So thank you very much, everybody. Yippee for digital marketer. I love all of you.
Thank you, Melissa. We love you too. And yeah, I'll hit that party up. Just send me the invite and I'll bring a camera so we get some pictures and video. Oh, there it is. Ooh,
It sounds awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers,
Tune in
y'all.
next
Thank y'all.
time.
Thanks.